Good afternoon, Bernie. It's today's the 17th of April, and I just wanted to get back to everybody and give you a quick update on what's going on in our community as it relates to COVID-19. The governor spoke today at noon, and if you didn't get a chance to hear and see what he had to say, I'll be going through some of that. But I thought it might be interesting to just go through a little bit of history real quick. We've been in this situation for about a month now. Starting on March 16th, that was the first, March 16th, just exactly 1 month ago, was the first declaration by both the city and the county where we did an emergency declaration. And the purpose of doing those emergency declarations was to declare a health state of emergency so that we would have access to federal funds. That was what we talked about. And it seems like that's such a long time ago, but it was only a month ago. On March 20th, we redid our declaration and we aligned with the recommendations from the president and from the CDC that talked about social distancing guidelines. It talked about closing the schools. It talked about several things. And what we essentially did then was just align with what all the recommendations were, as many communities across the country were doing. On March 25th, I issued a declaration of closing non-essential businesses, and I used the same list that the Department of Homeland Security had put together that everybody's been using. And we were a little bit ahead of the curve, but just 6 days later, on March 31st, the governor then ordered all non-essential businesses to close. And, in a way, he caught up to where we were. I was looking at the data, talking to our local health authorities and making sure I understood it correctly. So the governor then put in his orders on March 31st. There's a hierarchy to the orders, and so when the governor put in those orders, then that now superseded the orders that we had in place. They were essentially the same, but now we're under the governor's orders. And I changed the city's orders on April 1st, the very next day, and said we are now aligned with the governor's orders. And we still have the two additional things in ours. We had a travel restriction that was quite broad that said if you're coming from an area that's a hot spot, you're strongly urged to self-quarantine so that you don't spread COVID-19 in our community. And then we also had in there a guarantee that we won't shut off your utilities in case you are struggling economically and can't make payments. So the orders that we're under today that have been extended for us through the 28th of April are pretty much in alignment with the governor's orders. His orders were in place till the 30th. Now today he issued a new set of orders. And if you didn't get to see that, I'll just share with you exactly what he talked about. The first order he put in place was establishing a strike force to reopen the state of Texas. He spent a fair amount of time talking about all of the challenges that we've been dealing with, but that we are in a place where we can start talking about a slow and graduated reopening of businesses. And I think that's a great thing. There were several things he put in place. Number one, he said that he will loosen the restrictions on elective surgeries starting on the 22nd of April. That's Monday. And you can, if you had postponed elective surgeries, you can go back and talk to your doctors, your primary care doctors, or whoever you need to talk to if you had postponed elective surgeries. Number two, he said schools for the current calendar year are to remain closed for the rest of this calendar year. So Dr. Tommy Price and the Boerne ISD School District has already sent out an update to all of their parents, teachers, saying that, okay, schools are now closed and they're awaiting guidance from TEA, Texas Education Association, to instruct them on how to handle now graduation. So Dr. Price is right on top of this thing. He's already sent out communications, and if your student was scheduled to graduate this year, continue to look for Boerne ISD to get your information out to you. Let's see, he announced also state parks will reopen on Monday. And if you wanted to go to a state park, you must wear a mask. There was no question about you should or you should try to. It's you must. You won't be allowed in the state park if you aren't wearing a mask. And you can only be in groups of five individuals that you don't live with. The last component of what he announced today was important, which is allowing retail to go. I'll put that in quotes. Retail to go can start opening next Friday. What has happened as the orders to shut down non-essential business has essentially impacted mostly the restaurants and the retail community. Restaurants were able to go to a drive-by curbside pickup, obviously. Some retailers have tried to do that, and there has been some recognized success that if you can take an order by phone, do a payment by phone, and somebody can drive by and pick up your product that you sell as a merchandiser or as a retailer, and you'll be able to do that on a much broader basis. In fact, starting on the 24th, next Friday, any retailer, whether you're on the essential list or not, will be authorized to do retail to go. And again, that's the governor's orders today. There are more announcements that he will make on the 27th of April. That's a week and a half from today, Monday, the 27th. And on the 27th, he will address topics like gyms, restaurants, theaters, and other large venue places, and make additional recommendations. So all this is good news. This is all predicated, as he said today, it's based on data. It's not based on emotion. And we are frankly under the orders of the governor, not the orders of the city right now. We haven't been since March 31st. But as the data continues to be promising, if you didn't watch what President Trump said last night and the advice he's given to the governors, as long as the curve continues to stay flattened and we aren't overwhelming the medical systems, then this is a good thing. So I'm excited for some of our local retailers if they get to start opening. I got some additional information off of the Texas Health and Human Services website. And this is from Dr. John Hellerstedt. He's the state authority, the state medical authority. And there are some guidelines that come out. And if you'll humor me, I'm just going to read a couple of these. It's kind of a simple question and answer. It says, if I'm an employee of a retail business that's going to reopen, what should I do to keep myself and our customers safe? Number one, all employees must be trained on environmental cleaning and disinfection, hand hygiene, and respiratory etiquette. Number two, employees must be screened before coming into the business for new or worsening coughs, for shortness of breath, for sore throat, loss of taste or smell, feeling feverish, or a measured temperature greater than or equal to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, or any known close contact with a person who is lab confirmed to have COVID-19. Number three, upon entering the business, employees must immediately wash and sanitize their hands. Number four, all employees must wear face coverings. Number five, employees must maintain at least 6 feet separation from one another. Then it goes on to the next question. If I'm a customer, how do I purchase and obtain goods from a retail store that is going to reopen? And the advice from HHS, Health and Human Services, is that you can purchase items from a retail location for pickup, delivery by mail, or delivery to the customer's doorstep, but you may not enter the premises. All payment should be done over the phone or internet if possible. And this is all to minimize exchange of things that we own, that we each own. Credit cards, money. Purchase items should be delivered by the employee to the back seat or the trunk of the customer's vehicle, and the employee must immediately wash or sanitize their hands after each interaction with the customer. There's a couple more things where it talks about when things are delivered to the doorstep. As a customer, if you pick stuff up that's been delivered to your doorstep, you should probably wash your hands immediately after you pick it up. So all that's on the Department of Health and Human Services website. So that's actually good news. We're on a good road. I think a lot of the things that have been put in place across the entire country have worked to slow down the spread. Those of us who believe that and who have operated by the CDC guidelines, by the Governor Abbott's guidelines, I thank you for participating and doing what's right for our community. The results, I think, are there. There's always going to be the conspiracy theorists who think that there was an overreaction by the government, but frankly, what I've seen in Europe and all of their warnings, I think that we've done the right thing. So a couple more things I just wanted to talk about. Some people have sent me a couple questions and just said, so if the state parks are now open, what does that mean to our city parks and county parks? Tomorrow morning, we have our daily call with the city and the county representatives. I'm certain that we'll talk about that and you'll hear more about that. I was asked another question about, again, school graduation. How is that going to be handled? Again, Tommy Price, the superintendent of our school district, is all over this. And I would just tell you, watch out for his updates. And to the extent that I can share his updates, I will. But he's going to be the source of what's going to happen next on that. I was asked another question today just about travel restriction clarification. Again, the travel restrictions that I have in place in Boerne are a little bit broader than what the governor has. The governor's travel restrictions say if you specifically came from places like Louisiana, New York, Chicago, he names in his orders specific places, then you will self-quarantine when you come home. Our city orders say that if you're coming from a place where there's known COVID-19 community spread, you should you're strongly urged to self-quarantine for 14 days so you don't put yourself and others at further risk. And then I was asked one other question today about post-recovery. How long does it take for someone to actually be fully recovered in a household? So the CDC guidelines are pretty clear on this, and they say that if you've been diagnosed as COVID-19 positive, from that day forward, you must self-quarantine for 14 days. If you have family members that live in that household, once that person is recovered after 14 days, the family now is supposed to continue quarantining for another 14 days. So in essence, it's a month. It's 28 days of recovery. Those are the CDC guidelines. And that is because as long as that person has COVID-19, until they are known to be fully recovered, which is right now deemed to be 14 days, they could still transmit COVID-19 to somebody else. If you picked it up on day 13 of their recovery, you would essentially need 14 days to recover. And so that's why the CD guidelines are structured as they are, is to just make sure that everybody has fully recovered. Let's see. Are there further restrictions coming from me? I've been talking about masks for the last several days. I'm a big proponent of that, as are the local health authorities, both at the state level and the Kendall County level, and the surrounding counties for that matter. I know there's a lot of people that are against these masks, but doesn't matter. The health authorities are the ones who I'm going to listen to. And their advice is you should wear them when you go in public, and you can't guarantee that you'll be 6 feet apart from others, right? You can't guarantee your safe social distancing. What does that mean? It means when you go in public areas like grocery stores, like Walmarts, like the Home Depots in our city, you got to wear a mask. It's not for your protection. It's for you to protect others in case you're a carrier. We will be discussing masks further. If you saw yesterday, San Antonio made it mandatory for everybody if you're in a public place. I have said pretty consistently throughout this week, I encourage you to wear them when you go to public places. I'm not ready to make a decision on that today, but it's pretty clear to me as businesses are going to be allowed to reopen and extend their capabilities, whether it's a restaurant or anyone else, the governor's orders are going to be that employees are going to be required to wear masks. And I've been pondering that and talking to our local health authorities about that for the last couple of days. And I think that's probably going to be a practice that's going to be required. So we may as well prepare for that. That's just going to be the new normal. And it's all to make sure that as we start to reopen the businesses, that we don't have this mad rush to the way things used to be and then have another spike in the spread of COVID-19. That's all this is for. Again, nothing scary. I think it's pretty pragmatic, and I think it's the right thing to do. Last thing I wanted to share with you guys is there are a lot of people in need with the economic distress the entire community has been put in. Hill Country Daily Bread is struggling to keep up their supplies of food and other goods, but primarily food. And I was notified by a gentleman, Walker is his first name, and there is going to be a push on Monday for folks to do a drive-by drop-off of food items if you can. I'll be posting on my mayor page, and the city will as well, a link to a sign-up sheet where you can sign up. It's a Google Sheet to sign up. I want to come by at this time and drop off these kinds of goods. And if you can, please help out Hill Country Daily Bread as they are performing a much-needed service in Kendall County. You probably saw their video earlier this week. What Agnes and that team is doing is amazing. But they are in need of more food supplies. So if you can, again, help out your fellow Kendall County resident, please do that. Okay, that's all for today, folks. I hope you have a great weekend, and thanks for tuning in.